a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about scheduling, giving you the tips that I use to help me with scheduling, and implicitly I assumed that we knew, and I say we because I am unfortunately included in this overlook, that boundaries need to be set in order to, follow your schedule and how to set those boundaries. I had kind of a guideline of things that I did to set my boundaries when I came into grad school based on conversations I had with people and I guess through my experiences. So this semester I kind of already had a framework of this is what I want, whatever, but I was missing one final piece that I didn't realize I was missing until last week. So this week I was able to implement it and I was like, oh, game changer. If you don't watch till the end, then you're gonna miss this final ingredient, and that is the secret sauce. First thing you wanna do is ask yourself 4 essential questions when you're thinking about starting to set your boundaries, which we should all have. So you should, if you're not thinking about it, think about it now. 4 things. I like to do it in a broader sense first, so my overall boundaries in life, and then I like to break it down into my semesters or into a season, and then I like to break it down even further into weekly, and then even further into daily. And we get more into that in later in this video, so again, do not click off. So 1, what do you want life to feel like? It's the same thing as a scheduling video. You have to know how you want life to feel, and if you want more details on that, go back and watch it. Number 2, what do you care about the most? What are your priorities? That was probably the absolute hardest one, trying to figure out what are my priorities in life? What are my priorities for this season? It can change, maybe school is everything, maybe your job is everything, maybe you have a family so you can't afford to do that. How are you going to set your priorities? Number 3, where do you want to go? So what are you aiming towards? Are you just doing things tasks and tasks and tasks without any clue where you're going? With everything that you do, there needs to be this target, right? So you have to know that you are aiming towards it. Now, are you going to get it every time? No, but it's very different to be aiming at a target and miss it than to be facing the absolute wrong direction. And then lastly, when do you want to get there? There has to be time constraints on it. I mean, I think most of us have heard of SMART goals before, where it has to be time bound, but that applies here too. If you are in life, at some point, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, cool. Most people say that. What sets you apart? When do you want to become a millionaire by? What goals have you, how are you going to do that, right? How are you prioritizing the things that will get you there? How is that affecting your overall well-being? When do you want to get there? That will also help you in your weekly and your daily planning, and when you're setting boundaries in those aspects, because if, let's say, you want to produce a manuscript by the end of the month, then that means you're gonna have to say no to a lot more things for this season, for the next couple of weeks, so that you can make it to that goal. Or if there's something that's a little more pressing, then okay, well, I gotta move that around so I can make it to that thing, It's very simple. 4 questions that you can ask yourself and just think about as you are listening to the rest of this. I formally do sit down and think about these things, but then through my everyday, it's always in the back of my mind. So if somebody asks me to do something, I go through that list of okay, well, how does that fit? Is that helping me get to that target? And I don't say that in a selfish way, so I hope you hear my heart in it, but it's if I know that God's called me to be here and called me to do a certain thing, then everything that does not help me do that thing that God wants is a distraction. And I'm not saying it has to look exactly perfect, it has to be a part of your plan. That is not what I'm saying. So if that's what you're hearing, fix those ears. Just kidding. Oh my god, that's so rude. Sometimes it could be the most outrageous, absurd thing that you think is a complete waste of time, which is the actual very key, because if you do that thing, then you meet that person that you needed to get you from A to B. So I'm not saying it's gonna fit perfectly, but that's why you have to use discernment in your planning. And I personally plan during my prayer time, or right after my prayer time, where I still have the music and I'm still in that sense of that, I'm in that atmosphere of worship, and I'm hyper aware of the presence of the Lord, so that when I'm planning, it's okay. And when I don't do that, I'm not gonna cap to you, my plans fail, and I get frustrated, and I get anxious, and I get overwhelmed, and I say yes to things, and I'm just oh my gosh, why am I staying up till crazy hours in the morning and waking up even crazier hours? So it's So I'm going to give examples of different boundaries that I do, things that I use to help set boundaries in academic settings, and hopefully that you can apply this in whatever season or whatever area you are in. The first thing I do is super simple. It's something I learned from another grad student when I was interviewing for different grad schools, and I don't even know if it's from a student that goes to the school I'm at now, but that person, they said at the end of your email, just put in like your working hours. At the end of my email, it'll have my name, whatever, the credentials, and then at the bottom it says this inbox is monitored between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So easy, so simple. Don't know why I didn't think of it before. And it just like automatically tells other people what to expect from you. Now, do I stick to that? No. Like, I can go in at 7 a.m. and respond to emails if I want to, or 11 p.m. and do the same. Or I could not, and like at least I know that if I do that, it's because I want to do that and not because I feel that pressure. If you've read The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, you would know what I'm talking about when it talks about like having the notifications and feeling that demand of like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta do this, I gotta be there, I gotta, you know. Now you're in control of that. I like to think of it as like I want to be able to control where my attention is going and when it's going there, or I like to be in control of that as best as possible, especially in this day and age where like things are constantly just popping up. Like some things are inevitable, but you have to protect that space, because this right here,
this the money maker.
I can go on a rant about our attention span and whatever, but I won't, so I won't. But that does lead me to my next thing that I do. I turned off all the flash notifications on all of my devices, my computer, my phone, everything. So essentially what I'm saying is, if somebody messages me, my phone is not going to light up. My computer is not going to show a pop-up. It'll sit in the notification center. If I have my phone on silent, the vibration is off so that I don't even hear nothing. That way, when I'm in my space, when I'm doing my work, I am focused on that. And if I want to go check my notifications, then I can go do that. But I'm not being like forced to, because as soon as you see the light up, whether you realize it or not, you look, you glance, you think, like it pulls your attention, even if it's for a split second, and that is time that you're losing, because it takes a lot longer for us to regain that concentration to get back into that headspace than we think, and we give ourselves a lot more credit than we should about multitasking. Those two things alone really helped me a lot. So putting boundaries around like when my inbox is monitored, and then controlling my notifications. For my email, I actually don't have any notifications of email on my phone at all, so that if I'm not on my computer, then I'm not obligated to work. I don't feel that pressure of like, oh, I gotta go home and like get stuff done, because that does happen. If you're in a PhD program, this is probably going to apply to you. There are a lot of different areas that we are being demanded. So you have your research, you have your coursework, you have things for your lab, you have social events, you have whatever other hobbies you're doing, and then you also have to teach. So because of that, I try to like think of which days am I doing what. So for teaching, I made that a Tuesday, Thursday thing. I mean, I actually teach Monday, Wednesday, but like when I'm gonna do the work for that class is gonna be Tuesday and Thursday. And what I do is at the beginning of the semester, I try to make sure they understand that like I actually care about them and like want to help them, but I also do have a life outside of this and other responsibilities and demands. So I let them know, like, you can email me at any point. I will try to get back to you, but if you do not get a response back from me within the next day, you can expect it for sure on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. So if you email me and it's, you know, getting close that day, or is like you emailed me Tuesday evening and I didn't get back to you on Wednesday, you know that you're gonna get a response on Thursday. So it sets them, and it gives an expectation for them as well, kind of like with the inbox monitoring thing, a little bit more specific for them. And especially like with undergrads, like, I mean, with students in general, like no matter where you are at, like grades can be stressful. So when you have a question, it could be high anxiety and you're like, why isn't this professor getting back to me? Why isn't this person getting back to me? So I'm just letting them know, like, hey, calm down, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna work out, and I promise you I'm gonna get back to you, but I'm gonna get back to you when I'm available to get back to you, not when you are demanding me to get back to you. So, you know, you see that little shift? A little goes a long way. When you have like all these different things set in place, you start to feel more empowered, and more like you start to feel in control of like the time that God has given you. You start to steward it well. Another thing is like if I give them like my phone number to like my research assistant or to somebody that I strictly have a work relationship with, it's because I want them to have more access to me. But even with that, I still have to like we should still put boundaries around that. So it's like, hey, my notifications are off, so if you don't get me, know that I will respond to you, or like during this time I'm probably going to be unavailable. I also had like somebody do that to me, and I learned from them. Like, I was like, wow, I actually love that. And it sounds kind of harsh if you put it in a harsh way, but if you remind them how much you care and you support and you want to be there for them, then it just feels loving. Like, I haven't had any issues with it. Most of my students said like they feel comfortable talking to me. My research assistants, we've had really great working relationships, so it's not as bad as it sounds, but it can feel very intense, especially if we're not used to setting these boundaries in place. It can be a little awkward. Definitely took some adjusting for me, but absolutely worthwhile. Last two things, like I said in the beginning of the video, I really do try to do a weekly, so like when I'm doing my schedule, I think about like my time constraints and time boundaries, so I'll do it weekly, but then I'll also do it daily, because with boundaries, yes, you want to be able to stand firm and whatever, like guard your time, your mind, whatever, but there also has to be a level of flexibility in there, because life is messy and things can happen. Other people have boundaries too, and sometimes your boundaries clash with their boundaries, or they don't cross over enough, so you have to adjust and you have to make space and make room. So that's why, yes, I have that weekly one, but if something comes up and I'm not able to get that assignment done during that time, then okay, how do I, the next day, how can I fit that in? How can I shift things around? And then you go back to your questions. What do I care about the most? What is my, like, what are my priorities? What are the time constraints around that? And then the last thing, just remember to reiterate your boundaries, and like your scheduling priorities and things like that. And then again, with the flexibility, provide an alternative plan if things aren't working out. So for example, if you know somebody, your supervisor is telling you they want a couple projects done within a certain time frame, and you realize that you are not able to do that, hey, I'd love to do that, love that vision, I'm going to do my best to get them all done, but which one would you like me to prioritize first in case that can't happen? You're giving them the choice to decide what do they care about the most, and you're kind of flipping the switch on to them, while still being able to stay in your boundaries, making them feel like they are heard, they're seen, like you're valuing them. Another thing, like if there are a lot of things that you want to say yes to, you know, a lot of good things, like, hey, I want to do all of that, can we, and propose like an alternative timeline, instead of doing all those things within the next 2 weeks, can I do this week, and then that the next week, and maybe this the week after, and see how they feel, and like kind of go back and forth with that. So just constantly be respectful. Don't assume the worst about people. Like I said before, like they have their own set of rules and boundaries, and it's really hard for humans to interpret somebody else's experience without thinking about their own first. So you may be saying one thing and it may be, hey, I would do it another way, especially if they're really passionate. People's like, I would do it like this, and you're like, okay, but I'm doing it like this, and then you can explosion. But like that's not what we want. Like no one feels loved or respected in those kind of scenarios. So it's like, okay, yes, I understand you do it like that, especially if you're like in a position where you chose somebody to be your supervisor, you chose somebody to be your mentor. You have to respect them. There's like, they got to where they are at for like for a reason, you know. And I'm not saying you have to mimic their path, but at least take heed to what they have to say and don't immediately dismiss it. Sometimes it might be that you just need to change your expectations for whatever, and like you need to be more flexible about it. So yeah, that's my tangent on boundaries and like how to set them, and I hope this helps you. I give examples about how I use it in my life. Let me know what you do for your boundaries and how that's working out for you. If you try new things, I would love to hear about it, because life was not meant to be done alone. So let's do it together. Let's help each other out and help each other to reach our goals. Like, comment, subscribe, share the whole nine, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.